Vaults of treasure locked away beneath a temple in India, a secret cave in the Grand Canyon said to contain a wealth of ancient treasure and knowledge, and a massive time capsule completely sealed off, not to be opened for thousands of years. These are more forbidden archaeological sites experts aren't allowed to enter. The Padmanabhaswamy temple in Kerala, India is home to one of the most mysterious and controversial discoveries in recent history, the treasure vaults. So in June of 2011, when the Supreme Court of India ordered the opening of 5 of the 6 known vaults, the world was stunned by this vast collection of gold that was inside, and other stuff too. There were crowns, diamonds, and loads of precious artifacts which had all been hidden underground. The treasure is so valuable that some consider it the largest collection of gold and precious stones ever found. But not all the vaults have been opened. Vault B, for example, has remained untouched. When officials tried to open it in 2011, they ran into some problems. There was a metal grille door followed by a wooden door and then an iron door that was jammed shut. So they brought in a locksmith, but the royal family of Travancore stepped in and stopped them. But who is the royal family of Travancore? Well, at one time they were the rulers of the kingdom of Travancore, a region in southern India that is now part of Kerala. They still have some say today, though, when it comes to legal matters like this in the region. But why did they stop them from opening the vault? Well, it turns out that the vault was linked to old religious customs and astrology, and opening it was believed to bring bad luck. There is a curse supposedly attached to this door, and I gotta say, if any door is gonna be cursed, it's gotta be this one, right? Look at this thing. Amazing looking. It looks like a death metal album cover, to be honest. In 2020, the Supreme Court ruled that Vault B would remain sealed, and Vaults G and H, which were only discovered later, still haven't been opened either. In 1909, an article in the Arizona Gazette came out with a story about a guy named G.E. Kincaid who was rafting down the Colorado River when he claimed to discover a cave high up on the Grand Canyon wall, about 2,000 feet above the river. He said that inside the cave was a stash of ancient artifacts, and not the type you'd expect to see in the area. No, these looked like Egyptian ones. Statues, tools, there were hieroglyphics on the walls, and apparently there were mummies. Now, on its own, that would be incredible, but the mummies weren't even your standard size. They were gigantic. Kincaid supposedly took a few items and sent them off to the Smithsonian, but the Smithsonian denied ever receiving anything from Kincaid. So naturally, this has led to all kinds of conspiracy theories over the years. Some believe the Smithsonian was covering up the discovery, hiding proof of some ancient Egyptian civilization existing right in the heart of North America, and that the cave was sealed off by the government with armed guards, making sure no one ever got too close. But what do you all think? Could the Grand Canyon really have held these ancient secrets from some lost civilization with giants, apparently? Or was this all just a tall tale? The Crypt of Civilization is unlike any time capsule you've probably ever heard of. Instead of a small box buried underground, this is an entire room, a massive vault built to last for over 6,000 years. Nobody is allowed inside. It's not set to be opened until the year 8113. The time capsule was sealed up back in 1940 at Oglethorpe University in Georgia, and it was all the brainchild of a professor named Thornwell Jacobs. He was inspired by the discovery of ancient Egyptian tombs and wanted to leave behind a snapshot of life in the early 20th century, hoping that whatever civilization or species existed in thousands and thousands of years would find him. So what's inside this vault? Well, Jacobs and his team made sure to pack a little bit of everything. There are books, films, everyday items like a typewriter, a sewing machine, and a cash register. They also included recordings of famous speeches and radio shows, thinking that future generations might want to hear what people sounded like back then. The idea was to give anyone who finds it a taste of our world, our culture, and our technology. Of course, the problem is they had no idea that in the future everything would be up in the clouds, so who knows if these recordings will really be relevant. Still, it's an interesting concept, and I'm glad the thing exists. The Lascaux Caves in France are full of prehistoric art. Too bad you can't see it up close though. These caves have been off limits for a long time. For the majority of the public anyway. Discovered back in 1940, the caves are covered in stunning paintings. There are bison, horses, and deer, all done by ancient humans around 17,000 years ago. Unfortunately, after first opening the caves to the public, the large number of visitors ended up doing a lot of damage. The air quality changed, and then mold grew and the artwork just started to deteriorate. So in 1963, the caves were closed off to the public. And now, only a select few scientists are allowed to go in. The rest of us have to settle for seeing replicas or images that I'm showing you right here, which are still pretty cool, but obviously they're no replacement for the real thing. They've tried everything to preserve the paintings, but at the end of the day, it's the temperature and the number of people that really hurt the artwork, so they won't be opening it back up anytime soon. Next up, we have the Cave of Altamira in Spain, another incredible site with prehistoric art, but once again off limits. Discovered in 1879, Altamira's walls are covered with bison paintings, some of the oldest in Europe, this time around 36,000 years old. The artwork is so detailed and well preserved, it's hard not to be amazed by it. At first, people could visit, but like Lascaux Caves in France, all the visitors started to take their toll on the quality of the paintings. The carbon dioxide in the air and the humidity affected the artwork, so the cave was shut down to the public in 1977. Since then, only a few experts have been allowed to study it, and again, there is a replica you can visit, but the real thing is closed off, and it'll probably stay that way. And for Dune, France, there's a place called the Red Zone, or Zone Rouge, that's off limits to everyone, and for very good reason. This area was completely transformed during World War I, which turned what was once farmland into a raging battlefield. Millions of artillery shells rained down, tearing up the landscape, flattening towns, and leaving a mess of munitions scattered everywhere. After the war, the French government decided that it was just too dangerous to rebuild the villages or to try and rehabilitate the land, so they relocated everyone, and the area was sealed off. Even today, long after the war, it's illegal to enter. The land is just littered with unexploded shells and toxic chemicals, and while they've been trying to clean it up for years, some say it could take centuries to finish. The Ark of the Covenant, one of the Bible's most mysterious relics, was said to hold the Ten Commandments and was built around 3,000 years ago. After the Babylonian Empire conquered the Israelites, it disappeared from history. Nobody knows if it was destroyed, stolen, or hidden away. According to Ethiopian tradition, the Ark is now kept in the St. Mary of Zion Cathedral in Aksum, specifically in the Chapel of the Ark. But only one person, a monk, is allowed to see it. He's considered the sole guardian of this sacred artifact. And some believe the Ark in Aksum is just a replica, but no one else has been allowed inside to confirm, making this place an absolute mystery. The Great Pyramid of Giza is about as iconic as it gets, but for how much of a tourist destination it's become, it's not easily accessed, even for some of the world's most well-respected archaeologists. Some areas are completely off limits. One of the most restricted zones is the Queen's Chamber, a narrow passageway near the center of the pyramid, and while most can visit the Grand Gallery, which leads to the King's Chamber, the Queen's Chamber has been sealed off, and no one's really sure what's behind it. Then there's the lower shafts. Beneath the King's Chamber, there are these shafts that go down into the depths of the pyramid, and those haven't been fully explored either. In the 90s, a robot was sent down one of them and reached a dead end. Until this day, no one knows for sure what might be further along. Bhangarh Fort in Rajasthan, India is one of the most famous and arguably the most haunted sites in the country. Built in the 16th century by a ruler, the fort was meant as a tribute to his son, Man Singh. At one point, it was home to over 10,000 people, but today, the town is completely abandoned, and living there is strictly prohibited. In fact, you can't even go there after sunset. Tourists are allowed to visit during the day, but when it gets dark, everyone has to leave. Why? Well, the place is believed to be haunted, if not full-on cursed. It's earned the title of the most haunted place in India, and it may not just be folklore. There are reports of people who have snuck into the fort at night and just never came back. Others have heard eerie noises, seen strange figures, some even claim to have come face to face with malevolent spirits. So what happened? Why is the place cursed? Well, one story goes that a priest who dabbled in black magic fell for a stunning cunning princess from Bhangarh who had plenty of admirers. One day he followed her to the market and tried to give her a love potion, but she turned him down, tossing it onto a big rock. The rock then rolled onto him, crushing it. And just before he died, he cursed the village, dooming it to ruin. Now, Petra in Jordan is probably one of the most famous ancient cities in the world. You've probably seen pictures of the treasury, which is carved right into the side of a mountain. It's pretty spectacular. There's nothing else like it in the world. But while most of Petra is open to visitors, there are huge chunks of it that aren't. There are tombs and chambers that have been sealed off, and only a select few are allowed to explore them. The Jordanian government is really careful about what they let people do with Petra. They don't want any damage done to the sacred areas, and some believe that excavating certain parts could disrupt local communities. There's even talk that there are hidden vaults and treasures waiting to be found. With all that said though, I've been your host James. I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.